Hi, I'm Coach Josh, and today I want to talk a little bit about trekking poles. So these are a pair of Compardel TI7 contours. They've been all over the world with me: Alaska, Canada, Nepal, and I use them for work as a wilderness guide here in Tasmania. And one of the big things I see is a lot of people on the trail, especially guests that I have on the trail, but even public walkers, they get trekking poles and they sort of have an idea that they're going to be useful and good for them. And I agree, I love trekking poles. I use them for just about all my walks, especially if I'm carrying a backpack, because they definitely improve your efficiency. But a lot of people don't really know how to get the most benefit out of them. So they try and they use them, but it's very inefficient. And the whole point of them is to make things more efficient. The whole point of using trekking poles is to try and move like a four-legged animal, to transition some of the weight to your upper body and let that take some of the load off your lower limbs, your knees, your hips, your ankles. And there's a few things that we can do to make it more efficient for us. So I'm going to talk about some grips that you can use and then some techniques on how to use them depending on the terrain. The first thing I want to look at is how to use the grip and handle on a trekking pole. So this is a basic foam handle, and then it's got the extended grip, and I'll talk about the purpose of this. But also we have the wrist strap, and some of the ultralight guys won't use the wrist strap, and that's cool. But for the average walker, average hiker, average backpacker, average trekker, this is going to be really useful. And so I use what's called a skier's grip, or also a Nordic walking grip. And that's going under the handle, so coming up through the loop, and then coming down so that the webbing comes down into the webbing of your thumb and forefinger. So pole webbing, thumb and forefinger webbing. And that allows you to have the wrist supported with the strap, but then when you put pressure on it, you're not always squeezing the handle with a death grip. You're not trying to always use your grip as the main support, but the strap does the work because you just push down on the strap, and when you're pushing down on the strap, the whole hand and wrist takes the force. So this is the what I consider easiest way to utilize the strap on a trekking pole. So looking at a skier's or Nordic walker's grip. And then this way, when I drop the pole, say I need to grab a branch or I'm falling or I just want to get something out of my pocket, I can drop it, it stays on my wrist, and then when I go to walk again, I just go back to walking. So I find that easiest. The second grip is one that I use when going uphill or upstairs. Anytime there's a significant incline, and I find it easiest on stairs. So the track that I work on has a lot of stone stairs on the hills. It's a very nice, well-maintained track. And often when you're in this grip, you have to really lift the pole up to get on to the next step. So what I like to do is switch to a choked grip. So I drop down and I have the pole webbing, the loop, along the pinky side of my hand, and that actually lowers where my hand sits on the pole. So here, the hand grips much higher on the pole, and drop the thumb out, and then the hand sits lower. And this means you don't have to reach as high when trying to get on a step. So you can go from here to here, and that lowers the grip spot, 5-6 centimeters, depending on how long you have the loop. And that allows me not to reach as high to get up onto the next step or when going up a hill. So there's two main grips that I use. It's either the skier's grip or the choked grip, and I'll switch between the two as I'm changing terrain. Skier's grip allows me to go on flats and gentle incline and downhill for braking, but the choked grip allows me to get a bit higher up without reaching as high. So if there's a steep incline or stairs, I don't have to lift my arm as much with a heavy backpack on. It's a lot easier this way. Now, let's look at some options for pole direction and how to use them in motion. Alright, so I'm on a bit of a slope here, and I'm going to use this to show a few techniques on how to use your poles to either brake when going down or to help you accelerate and power up a hill. But because it's not very steep, I'll show you an option for how we'd walk on a flat. So let's look at the flats first. So if we're on a flat, we're going to want our poles to be about 90 degrees at the elbow when we're standing straight. So elbow is approximately 90 degrees. Some people like a little bit more of a bent elbow. Some people like a little bit more of a straight elbow. No big deal. But we want the height to be giving us an elbow angle of about 90 degrees, give or take. Now I'm using the skier's grip, and so when I go and walk on a flat, I'm going to keep the poles tight to my side, and I'm going to bring them along the side of my body. The purpose for my poles, from using my poles in this fashion, is that they keep me upright. If I have a heavy pack, I want to lean forward, this keeps me upright and makes me more efficient at walking, similar to our normal everyday gait where we stand upright. So it helps keep me balanced and gives me a little propulsion forward. So let's look at that. You'll notice that I am angling them slightly backwards because this is a bit of a hill, but not a lot. Now I'm going to exaggerate and show you how I'd use the poles in a choked grip, but also trying to power up a steeper slope. So here, the poles will be angled backwards because I'm using them to help push myself up the hill. I'm not just trying to maintain upright posture, but I'm actually using them for propulsion. Choked grip. You'll notice that I generally keep the trekking poles quite close to my body. One of the biggest mistakes I see is people on hills reaching out in front of them with the poles and trying to pull themselves up. It doesn't work that way. You're just making your life harder. So keep them tight, nice good posture, and use them to propel yourself upwards. Whether you like a cross crawl action between opposite leg and opposite arm, or whether you like to use them like ski poles up hills and push yourself this way, doesn't matter. But nice tight posture, angling the tips back will give you more propulsion. Now let's look at using the poles when going downhill. So one of the great advantages of poles is that they take the pressure off your knees and they actually provide a braking function when going downhill. And although we're using them to decelerate and slow ourselves down or slow the momentum, it allows us to actually move much quicker downhill than without them. Plus, it's less of a strain on our knees, ankles, hips, particularly knees. So let's look at this. So when going downhill, I like to keep a skier's grip, and with the skier's grip, I like to angle the poles down the slope, nice and tight, and I really don't use the handles much for this. I allow the slings of the wrist loops to do most of the work. So let's look at how this is going to look in action. Just to recap, so when we're moving downhill, we want the poles angled in front of us to assist with braking. When we're moving uphill, we want the poles facing back, so the tips facing behind us to help accelerate and propel us up the hill. If we're on a flat or a gentle slope, we're mostly looking at the poles being alongside us and then adjusting to subtle changes in the terrain. Now, they're also very useful when looking at things like muddy terrain, slippery rocks, crossing a river, that kind of thing. That's a bit more advanced. The purpose of this video is just to give you some ideas for new pole users, how to use them. One thing we need to keep in mind too is they're going to make you more efficient, they're going to help you carry weight better with less strain on your body, and they're going to help you move faster with less fatigue. So again, I'm Coach Josh. I hope this was helpful. If you like this video, please like, subscribe, throw a comment in, let me know what you think. I love chatting with everybody. Thank you.